got a good view. We'll tilt back that way later when we do coffee, guys. Totally. There we go. Awesome. Let's go. So, guys, we're live. Haunted Hunter's Cabin, guys. Oh, I thought I was typing. It helped. There we go. Let's go. There we go. There we go. We got both in. We just rotate. It's kind of hard, guys, getting the camera to rotate there, but some clips I'm standing up, some clips I'm sat down. Getting it spooker. So again, guys, we're just kind of finishing up Thanksgiving weekend and going into what you call a haunted scare, guys. Totally. A little bit of Haunted Hunter's Cabin. A little bit of haunted story recorder. Never go anywhere without it. This is the narrator, guys. Totally. I waited till dark. To share the Haunted Hunter's Cabin live in yesterday's three parts of the videos, guys. We shared detail, a little bit outline of it, what we could share, and definitely that the fact on how frightening and how spooky of a place it is, how bad of hauntings that happen there. That's fact. It's not like your everyday ghost chase that you're used to. That's the fact that it is 100% authentically very empowered. That the apparitions are very empowered because the one headless headhunter, he is a witch and can do things And that's what makes the place more powerful than any other place you guys have ever investigated. Totally. If you were to go into the real place and how old it is, what it's like, how many ancient year old it was built, why it is the way it is, why it's so powerful the way it is, what makes it, what gives it its power. Sometime during this week, guys, not this weekend, like I said, we're going to show you which one of the tools, excuse me, that will feed it its power, if it's not used the right way or in the right manner. Totally. On some of the outcomes, normally we would take you guys for a walk. Now I have to do it by regular camera. Normally I would have most years take you guys for a walk out into like the main downtown area when there's not a lot of people just out for a walk or whatever, and show you what the haunted tunnel looks like, that kind of stuff like that. Now it is a public tunnel, because there's apartment buildings up above, we can't really there's a time curfew that we can't walk through the back alleyways after dark. Just a safety issue. They are public alleyways, but we cannot walk back in there after a certain time of night. They actually got gates. They locked them off after a certain time of night or after dark, just for people's safety. Even with all the construction down here, too, if you want to go from one side of the street to the other, you got to go all the way around down a back dark alley, that kind of thing. And they actually are gating off the alleys after dark. Because you can't really go down the main streets because they're gated off. There's a big hole in front of the storefronts with the construction. But after a certain time of night, for your own safety, because it is an alleyway, it is not safe to go down a dark alley for anybody after dark. In generally, definitely not by yourself, or even if you're just out for a walk, because anything can happen back there. Totally. Generally, so what they do is to keep people safe. They lock it off at the gate. Now, like I know with the tunnel here, there's apartment buildings above that people can enter their homes through that public tunnel, that kind of stuff like that. But again, it has a gate on it as well that they close off and lock off at night. But that is okay, guys. And it can get spooky in there too as well. Definitely, because those are little dark haunted places you in any little town you don't know of. Or we would have took you guys for a walk down Elm Street, guys, up here. Totally. Like we did before, but with this COVID-19 right now, guys, everybody's kind of contained at home after a certain time at night. So with the COVID-19 conditions, the government has everybody on a time curfew. That they're not really supposed to be out unless they have to be after a certain time of night. So, or after dark. Unless you have to go out to walk your dog, that is different. Totally different. Those are the only exceptions that they allow, especially with this construction going on. Totally. And also, too, guys, it is coyote season too as well. So, guys, we kind of running a little bit later tonight, guys. Totally, this is good. This is good timing because it is after dark, especially for the Haunted Hunters Cabin season. That's definitely for the Hunt House because it makes it spooky. So again, I shared the outline of Haunted Hunter's Cabin. Now, Haunted Hunter's Cabin, the replicacy that I do of the haunted house, we do tell other tales. We do tell other ghost tales and legends. And definitely, with it being Halloween or whatever, we tell other people's legends and ghost urban legends and campfire stories. Definitely, because that's what makes it fun. So we kind of make it make it interesting for you guys and try to make it kind of scary. Especially where we had a moment where we had, what was it, last night? We had the two headless headhunters here in the cabin. The one was a witch on how more frightening their haunting is becoming. Totally, which is changing the legend. Definitely. But that's okay. So I'll tell you, that was a bigger, holy jumpins, bigger shock. And definitely when we close encounter these spooky guests. And that, like I said, it's Haunted Hunter's Cabin. Myra's replicacy or the real thing. Anything is capable of happening around here. Anything spooky. Anything spooky, frightening. It is Halloween time. It's their time to haunt, their time to roam, their time to air. Definitely, it is their month. It is their time, more or less. They're in season. They're not out of season. They're in their own timing. Like I said, it is Halloween is their time. It is their thing. This is what Halloween is about, really. Haunted houses, ghost goblins, black creepy crawly things, black four-legged things. It is stuff that will creep you out that goes bump in the night. Definitely, guys. This is what they call a Halloween fright. And definitely. Ghost legends, gypsy tales, gypsy ghost story tales, or ghost story legends. No matter at one time if they were true or today or just known as what you call an unsolved urban ghost legend or unsolved mystery ghost legends, paranormal supernatural ghost legends. Do all give you a good fright. Just to let you guys know for the replicancy of the haunted house, guys, of Hunter's Cabin. Everything's digital. Like I said before, in the real cabin, nothing is digital. Nothing will ever be digital. Like I said, there's no plugs, no power. Everything is done all the old pioneer way still. Old stone haunted fireplace, logs lighting itself, blood dripping down the windows on its own, candle wicks on the walls, the candles lighting itself, objects moving around, the apparition slamming the doors locked, jamming the doors locked, everything done in the morning. If you survive Hunter's Cabin, or you survive the Headless Headhunters, you don't become a ghost or trapped. Or you could be like us that didn't stick around long enough. The moment we see movement or shadow movement, we got out of there. We didn't stick around to let the ghost lock us in. And definitely, we see one creepy movement and we were out of there. Definitely, we were smart. After the legend was told, we didn't stick around to wait for the finale. We were not that stupid. And definitely, I keep hearing stuff back there. We're gonna see what we can find on the narrator here, guys. I got some cool stuff here, guys, for the narrator. Also, too, I've got some voice response recorders too. Indefinitely. So we kind of can see what we're dealing with here tonight. We're gonna give this one a try tonight, guys. Again, we're gonna open up the Gypsy Legends, the Ghost Legend circles here, guys. So we're gonna have a couple of them live from Haunted Hunter's Cabin, guys. I don't think we can get anything to.
This upcoming Halloween will be my 40th birthday, and even after nearly 25 years, the terrifying memory of that night has never faded. You see, I lost my virginity in a pumpkin patch on Halloween. I know, cliché. Specifically, I lost it in the bed of a pickup truck while it was parked in the pumpkin patch. To give you an idea, the patch was maybe 80 by 100 feet, and fenced off by wire mesh to prevent cows from getting in. The truck was parked just inside the only gate. Myself and my date had settled there right before the sun went down. My house was just across the street from the pumpkin patch. We shared a bottle of wine, awkwardly talked for a while, and then got to business. My family had 2 border collies, and as we were changing positions, the dogs wandered in and started barking at us. My date and I paused and drunkenly, playfully, began throwing scraps of food out into the pumpkins for them to chase. After a couple of minutes of that, we continued where we left off. After we were done, we sat there in the truck and looked up at the stars, while the dogs wandered around sniffing random things. After a short while, I saw my father return home, pulling into the driveway across the street. The dogs bounded out of the patch towards him, and me and my date quickly began to dress ourselves. Once we were fully clothed, we just sat on the tailgate and kept talking as we watched my dad pet the dogs and go into the house. It was about then that we heard it. A rustling sound coming from the patch somewhere behind us. We both paused and turned. At this point, there was only moonlight to illuminate our surroundings, but it was enough. And this is exactly what we saw. A single pumpkin began to rise up out of the patch, but not like someone was lifting it. It was kind of sideways, like it had been resting on its side and was now sitting up. For a split second, I thought someone was rising this pumpkin out of the patch on a stick or a metal bar. But then the stick changed position. It coiled like a snake and then shot straight up, like a man would be if he went from a squatting position to a standing position. I then saw 2 spindly legs with knee joints protruding from the thing, but no arms. There was a buzzing in my ear, and all of a sudden my date screamed. We both jumped off the truck and booked it out of the patch and sprinted towards my house. I glanced back once, and I'll swear on whatever you want me to swear on. A tall, skeletal figure was leaning over the truck where we had both been sitting, and I caught a glimpse of 2 beady red eyes staring back at me. We made it to my garage and forced our way through the kitchen door. I began screaming at my dad to get his gun. It wasn't until I saw the blood on the kitchen floor that I realized that my nose had been bleeding. Even more alarming, my date's nose was gushing blood as well. I told my dad that there was someone in the pumpkin patch, and he grabbed his gun and power walked out of the house, the dogs following closely behind him. But they stopped halfway there, refusing to come any closer to the pumpkin patch. When my dad returned, he was livid. He wanted to know what had damaged the fence and broke the tailgate off my truck, which technically was his truck. I could only shiver in confusion and abject terror. He reported that something had knocked the tailgate right off the truck and then tore out of the patch from inside and destroyed a huge section of fence. I didn't sleep at all that night. I cowered in terror in the living room with all the lights on. The next day, the police came and examined the scene. The wire fence had been torn out of the ground and dragged a short distance away. There was no clear indication of what specifically had done it. My father and the police were convinced that it was a trespasser pulling a Halloween prank. But I never believed that for a moment. I tried to explain that the dogs had been pounding through the patch minutes before the thing had appeared, and neither of them had made a sound to alert us that there was a trespasser nearby. Furthermore, the entry gate to the patch made plenty of noise whenever the wind rattled it. So if someone climbed over it, it would make even more noise, and we had been sitting right by the gate. Another thing that terrified me is the shape of the thing as it stood. Even if it was a trespasser with an elaborate costume, none of that would even begin to explain the tailgate, the destroyed fence, the nosebleeds, and our dogs being too nervous to approach the patch, or the eyes I had caught a glimpse of. My father went to his grave believing that we had been vandalized by trespassers. My date and I concluded later that whatever it was, it hadn't been human or an animal. I don't tell the story often because I mostly get the same Charlie Brown joke. It was the Great Pumpkin. So no one really takes me seriously. But I've heard that skinwalkers can take the form of anything that best suits their surroundings. Our property wasn't anywhere near a Native American reservation, but I can't think of anything else it could have been. So what do you think it was?
At TD, we know a time will come when we'll look back and remember
Sorry about that,
when
guys.
life looked like this.
The narrator's got to
It's
get a bit
been
of
10
ads.
years since I've spoken about this incident. On Halloween of 2009, me and my younger sister, along with a couple of friends, went out to trick-or-treat. I was only 8 years old at the time. My younger sister was 5. My best friend's older brother was 17, and it was his responsibility to look after us that night. This took place in London, and at the time, we hardly had any crimes in our area. The night went off without a hitch, and we were all planning on calling it an evening since we had collected enough candy. My best friend's older brother was just about to call my dad, but before he could dial the number, he received a call from my dad. He let him know where to come to pick us up, and after a few minutes, my dad came and collected me and my sister. We said goodbye to our friends and thanked them for the fun evening. As my dad was driving my sister and I back home, he seemed on edge. Now, since I was only 8, I kept babbling on about how much candy we had collected, and how I couldn't wait to get home to eat them. My dad wasn't listening. He just looked really anxious about something. As soon as we got back home, I entered my house to find my mother, my aunt, and my cousin sitting in the living room. I greeted them, and my mother hugged both me and my sister. My dad sat us down and told us that we could never go out trick-or-treating ever again. Now, because I was 8, I began throwing a tantrum, complaining how I loved Halloween, and my parents were being unfair. My little sister was too young to even care. She was too busy going through the candy that we had collected. So after 2009, me and my sister never went out for Halloween. We didn't bother throwing a tantrum since we knew it would be pointless. However, in 2012, my brother was born, and last year in 2018, he turned 6. My father finally relented and agreed to take my little brother and my sister out trick-or-treating. By this time, Halloween had lost its appeal for me, and I didn't want to go out anyway. My little brother gets his way since he's the youngest, and he loves Halloween. I decided to ask my mom why she didn't allow me and my sister to go out on Halloween after 2009. She sighed and explained to me that a boy from our neighborhood had gone out trick-or-treating in the same area. He was with his friends, but had somehow separated from the group. He ended up knocking on the door of an old house that was located at the end of a quiet street. I'll spare you the gory details, but the boy's body was found in that house after several people heard screaming and called the police. The boy's arm had been removed from his body, and he died from blood loss. The police had been going door to door warning parents about what happened, and that's when my dad came and collected us. My mother told me that they arrested an old, mentally deranged man in connection with the crime, but Halloween would never be the same again for my neighborhood. I had heard rumors about a boy who was killed on Halloween at my school, but I never took it seriously. I thought it was just a local urban legend. But now I understood why my dad looked so worried that night. The house where the boy was found, which is only a few blocks away from mine, now sits abandoned, with its windows boarded up. People around here jokingly refer to it as the Myers house. Halloween is pretty much ruined for me. I'll be staying home again this year. However, my brother, who's now 7, can't wait for Halloween. I just hope my dad keeps a close eye on him. The night before Halloween of 2006, I was walking down the sidewalk to my friend's house. As I was making my way down the sidewalk, I saw something moving across the street a little ways in front of me. I wasn't too familiar with the Halloween movies at the time, but I did recognize the Michael Myers mask as I watched the figure walk into the front yard of a house that was on the other side of the street. It then stopped, looked in my direction, and then turned and kept walking across the front yard. I was more weirded out than afraid. I figured this guy had to have been someone who lived there and was playing a practical joke on someone. I continued to my friend's house and eventually forgot all about it. The next morning, I was waiting for the school bus to come to pick up me and my sister. It was still pretty early, and the morning fog was rising up from the grass, and the frost was slowly melting off the windshields of some nearby parked cars. I was just wandering up and down the sidewalk when I saw the Michael Myers guy again. This time he was directly across the road, standing between 2 garages and looking my way. I pointed him out to my sister, but he was standing so still that she assumed that he was some kind of Halloween decoration. I was tempted to call out to him, but I decided against it. And even in my 12-year-old mind, I felt genuine alarm that an adult could walk around with a mask on this early and stare at someone else's children. It wasn't until I was on the bus that the figure finally moved. I tried to point him out to my sister, but the bus was already moving, and he was out of sight. That night was Halloween, and my sister and I went out dressed as Ash and Misty, and my father accompanied us, occasionally saying, "Pikachu," in a really loud, squeaky voice when other people were close by to embarrass us. It wasn't until we were on our way home that I saw the Michael Myers guy again. He was walking down the side of the road behind us. Other people were walking by him without even reacting. I tried to point him out to my father, but he barely looked twice at the figure. When we got home, I watched from my bedroom as the figure stood outside our front lawn. He waited there for a few minutes before disappearing around the side of our house. Now I was starting to get nervous. I asked my dad if one of his friends was messing with us, and I begged him to take a look outside. But he came back a minute later with a completely carefree attitude, stating that there was no one there. Later that night, my sister crept into my room and whispered that there was someone outside of her bedroom window. Instead of calling out to my parents, who were both to sleep, I grabbed my flashlight and followed her back to her room. I told her not to turn on any lights. When we got to the window, I turned on the flashlight and shone the beam directly into the face of Michael Myers, who was standing directly outside, peering through the window. His hands were cupped against his eyes to help him see inside. When the light hit him, you would think that he would have bolted, but instead, he remained motionless. He opened his hands and slapped the window hard enough to knock a framed picture off the wall. I screamed like I was being eaten by a shark. The figure then put his right index finger up to the lips of his mask, as if telling me to shush. He then vanished into the darkness. My father then burst into the room, and we both started crying as we told him what we saw. The cops were called, but they took their time getting there, obviously not very concerned that it was anything other than a Halloween prank. Had I not seen the stranger before that night, I may have believed that. The neighborhood was searched, but no one wearing a Michael Myers mask was found. A few weeks later, I had come down with a cold and was staying home from school. My sister waited alone at the bus stop that day. While she was there, someone tried to pull up next to her in a white van and tried to convince her to climb in. She sprinted back to the house and told my mom. I'm not sure if this connects to the man in the Michael Myers mask, but something tells me that it does. When my girlfriend and I lived together, we loved celebrating Halloween. As far as we were concerned, it was a holiday that outranked all the others, even Christmas. Our favorite part was always the trick-or-treaters. We took great joy in dressing up for the kids and answering each knock on the door with a big, "Happy Halloween!" The smiling faces delighted us. We were the couple that overstocked our candy supply and gave out double handfuls to each kid that dared stand under our porch light on the night of Hallows' Eve. We were always quick to remind each and every trick-or-treater to have their parents check the candy before consuming it. Jackie and I took pride in that holiday. It reminded us that we were kids once too. Indeed, a bittersweet feeling, but it was worth every emotion it conjured up. Until the year the trick-or-treaters came, one night early. It was the 30th of October, around 3 a.m. I guess you could argue that it was technically Halloween, but we most certainly were not prepared to hand out treats at that time. My girlfriend and I were sound asleep when the knocking started. I didn't hear a thing until Jackie woke me up. I was still dazed when she whispered to me that someone was knocking on our front door. I sat up in bed and silently strained to listen. That's when I heard it. 3 soft knocks. The knocks weren't banging or pounding. They were light and sounded delicate. Even so, the sense of threat lingered heavy in the air of our bedroom, and it made me weary. Who could be knocking on our door at this time of night? I wondered. My thoughts were interrupted when they knocked again. The sound resonated through our house, exactly the same as before. I quickly got out of bed and shuffled into some clothes that I could answer the door in. I told Jackie to stay in the bedroom and keep her phone close by, just in case. I then walked out of the room and headed towards the front door. By the time I reached its wooden frame, 2 more series of knocks had occurred. There was no sense of emergency or even urgency, just persistent and constant. I stood there staring at the lock on the door. I then shouted, "Hello?" Having no idea what to expect. To my complete surprise, a group of what sounded like young children answered back in unison, "Trick or treat!" My door had no peephole or window that I could look out of, but it definitely sounded like a group of preteen trick-or-treaters. For some bizarre reason, ignoring every sense of danger and intuition, I foolishly opened the door. Honestly, I don't even remember performing the action. I really don't think I was in control of myself. I was just suddenly standing in the open doorway staring at a group of children that I had never seen before. But the October chill that swept past my clothes and into my bones was a sure sign that this was no dream. 5 preteen children stared back at me silently. "Trick or treat," they said again, with the same cadence as before. Extremely puzzled, I asked the kids why they were out so late and told them that the Halloween festivities wouldn't start until tomorrow evening. "Trick or treat," they replied for a third time, still staring at me with no expression on their faces. I started to get agitated. I was cold and tired. What they were doing was unacceptable. I sternly asked the children where they lived, and if their parents were aware that they were out this time of night. They just snickered in response. "Excuse me?" I said in disbelief. Then one of them chimed, "Your porch light is on. It's Halloween." I was about to let off when Jackie brushed past me. "Babe, stop being so mean to the kids. It's Halloween," she said. I looked at her, and to my shock and awe, she was fully dressed in her Halloween costume. A fully done-up zombie. She had been in her pajamas in bed only moments before, but suddenly, her monster makeup was fixed up and everything. How did she do that so fast? She dresses up as a zombie every year, and it usually takes her over an hour to get ready. How had she done it in the few moments since I left the room? "Jackie, honey, what are you doing?" I gently grabbed her by the arm. She pulled her arm back viciously and shot me an evil look from hell. "It is Halloween," she said angrily. "Yeah, but it's 3 a.m., Jackie," I said, but she paid no attention to me. "Don't they all look so gorgeous all dressed up?" she asked, smiling, as she took a step towards the kids. She was holding a bowl full of candy, giggling with excitement. She stuck her hand in the bowl, grabbed a handful of candy, and proceeded to drop them into a Halloween sack. Only, none of the kids had a sack, bucket, or bag. When Jackie let go of the candy, it plopped straight down onto the wooden floor in front of the kids on our porch, and my girlfriend didn't appear to see anything wrong with her behavior or the situation. Her reactions were totally out of character. "It's Halloween. Can we come in?" one of the children asked. They weren't even dressed up. How had I missed that? It was like they were all wearing the same exact clothes. The only feature that stood out at that moment were the dark, fully black eyes peering at us from the tiny, emotionless faces standing underneath the porch light. Their eyes were way too black to be cosmetic. At that point, I knew something was seriously wrong. But before I could act, Jackie answered the kid's question with excitement. "Of course you can come in. You all look so cute in your costumes," she said as she attempted to shove her way past me to let those little things into our house. I caught myself on the door frame with one hand and grabbed her with my free arm. The kids were stepping forward towards our door as Jackie struggled to fight me off and pleaded with me to let them in. She was going absolutely crazy to keep the door open. Just before I managed to close and lock the door, I got a good look at one of the kids' faces. It had changed. Its teeth were sharp and jagged. It was almost as if it was drooling with hunger or something. Thinking back, it reminds me of the face that Pennywise the clown makes right before he snaps at someone. A thought that, to this day, chills me to the core of my fractured soul. Closing the front door and locking it wasn't enough. Something had come over Jackie. She would have done anything to let those kids, or whatever they were, inside. The rest of the night was torture. She clawed at me, hit me, bit me, and cried, screaming at the top of her lungs and throwing things at my head as she violently wrecked our whole house, including our phones. I couldn't even call for help. It was like she was possessed by those black-eyed children. She would stop at nothing to let them inside. Finally, she covered herself in lighter fluid and tried to light herself on fire in our kitchen. I had no other choice. I knocked her out and tied her to the bedposts. When Jackie came to, she pleaded and struggled against the ropes that bound her, crying for me to let them in, and struggling so hard against the ropes that it wore her skin completely off her wrists and ankles, leaving our white bedsheets stained red. For hours, the kids taunted us, knocking at our front door with that same polite 3-tap knock. When the knocking finally stopped at dawn, so did Jackie. When I was sure she was no longer a threat, I untied her. Lucky for me, she remembered almost everything, but she was an absolute hysterical mess. The state of the house, the marks on my body, the makeup, the smell of lighter fluid, everything. She knew what she did, and it tore her apart. I rushed her to the neighbor's house where we called 911. I could only imagine how it looked. It must have seemed like some sadistic case of domestic violence. And even though Jackie confirmed to the authorities that everything I said was true, I don't think a single person believed our story. How the hell could I blame them? I stayed with Jackie for 2 years after that, but she was never the same person. When it became evident that she was never going to get out of the psychiatric hospital, I was pressured by her family to move on with my life and to leave their daughter in peace. I had done enough as far as they were concerned. Jackie was deemed clinically insane, and in everyone's head, I was to blame. So I let go without even saying goodbye to her. And I hope it made things easier on everyone, because it damn near killed me. No matter what you hear or how you feel, don't ever answer your door to trick-or-treaters on October 30th. And never leave your porch light on the night before Halloween. There's always a reason to be afraid. Oh shit, dude, you go again, guys.
I give this my own free will. guys. Thank you for joining me. A few days ago, I decided to clean the temple. Now, I clean my temple periodically, usually every week to 2 weeks. Well, this time I decided to clean all the candlesticks and replace all the candles. When I was cleaning up, I had this overwhelming feeling of anxiety. Now, I have this periodically in this temple. It's a feeling of feeling rushed, like I just wanted to get this job done. And I'm done a ritual, and nothing is going on. There's still something happening in this temple. It's like a open portal that runs 24/7, like running water. Now, I have to be honest, and I think I shared this once or twice, that I don't sage my temple. I like the energy in this temple. Lucifer, Father, I call on you. Some will say, sage your temple, clean it out, ask the spirits to leave. I choose not to. I've been working with King Paimon for 60 days. Actually, it's been a little bit longer than 60 days. And I have been seeing a lot of paranormal activity in my space. Well, I'm a fan of Ghost Adventures. And when I watch Ghost Adventures, they have cameras all set up. When something moves, they show it to you, and they play it again, and they play it in slow motion, and you really get to see an item or an object move.
In areas where we experienced activity, we were about to capture something that shocked us all. At 31 minutes, 28 seconds after we hit record on the static night vision camera covering the White Room, we captured this.
But when it really happens in real life, it's not like that. Now, I was sharing with you that I was replacing my candles that evening. I took 2 candles and I placed it on the ground, on the rug, and I started cleaning the candle holders. In the corner of my eye, I see both of them roll. 2 inches, but both. And I looked down, it was like, yeah. Now, and it's just like that, and I just keep cleaning. I knew it happened, but I don't get that replay. I don't get that intensity you would in a TV show. And this happens to me all the time. Always seeing things drop or hearing things drop and looking, it's like, okay, things being pushed. I want to share you a story that happened, and I like this story because it did involve with the person I am with. Downstairs in the living room, and my living room and kitchen are open concept. Now, I forget the item. This is going back a few months ago, but I'm just going to say it's a spoon. So the spoon is on the microwave and gets thrown in the middle of the kitchen floor. I look at my wife and say, did you see that? And she's like, no, but what was that? We both got up, we walked into the kitchen, picked up the spoon. It's like, it's a fucking spoon. I place it on the microwave. She starts, fucking around, joking. That's what she does. Saying shit like, oh, it must be some of the demons that you work with. That's what it was. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. And then the spoon gets thrown right back in front of us. And we both look at each other. And instead of smiling, right? And so I can see the shock in her face. And I'm thinking, that's right. That's right, my demons, right? I really like that story. Well, because it's true, number one. But because I had a witness there. And when you have a witness to experience some things that are happening to you, it definitely validates it. But it's just nice to see the other person's reaction. Like I said, I've been working with King Paimon a lot, and he has opened my eyes to a few things. I'm going to give you an example of one thing. He shared with me 2 people that are going to curse me. Now, they haven't cursed me yet. One that I know, just know of, and the other is a friend of mine. So I got their birth dates, and I got 2 pics of them. And he, King Paimon, gave me a sigil. I placed it in a little box, put the sigil on it, and I buried it. He told me that this would prevent any curses from these 2 people to affect my life in any way. Now, I like the one person, and he is a friend of mine. And he told me why he was going to curse me. They're both cursing me for 2 different reasons. And the truth is, it's nothing that I did. It's all them. I will still talk to this person. I hold no grudges. I hope this person, when he does curse me, because it hasn't happened yet, in time, he'll understand that it's just a shitty thing to do. I'm not a prick that way. I'm not going to have a curse war with somebody, especially in the field, I was told, I was warned, I protected myself. It's all good. But yeah, working with King Paimon, a lot of paranormal activity has occurred in the house. From the last time I made a video talking like this, I've had a lot of experiences happen to me. I had to go back into a ritual with Tambuta, and I had to make an amends first because I put him aside, and he's a pretty angry spirit. spirits to come back. Now, you will say, well, why did you leave? I had somebody, why did you leave the circle? Well, my circle is an insult. I don't fucking even want to think about doing that. If I'm calling a spirit, I definitely do not want to protect myself. It's like saying, fuck you, come, but don't get too close. The circle and the triangle that I use, the triangle behind me, is to bring in spirits. And when I left that ritual space, let's call it the ritual space, when I was grabbed by Tambuta, it was not because I wanted to get away from him. It was because it legitimately, for that moment, just in that moment, fucking scared the shit out of me. So I had to collect myself. And, you know, it has happened before, not with Tambuta, but I kind of knew that the spirit the first time was around me that close. It was unexpected with Tambuta. I didn't know that he was behind me. I didn't even feel that he was around me. It was just like, when he grabbed me, I left. The energy was high. It was just the way he came, grabbed me. Yeah, that's a pretty fucked up one. That was pretty scary. And through my amends, he wanted me to feel pain. Enough. Said enough. Are we done here? Can we move forward? See, I stopped working with Tambuta the first time. He's a very dark entity. And I've shared in my other video that he was human, but he's now like a god form, like a demon, actually. But he's fucking always angry. He's an angry spirit. And when I was working with him, he tried to destroy something that was really important to me. Now, I've heard some practitioners say that these spirits, all they want to do is help. For myself, and from what I'm seeing, this is not always true. There is some spirits that just want to fuck with you, fuck your shit up. Not all of them are helpful. And some of them will work with you and some of them won't. I have a strong relationship with Azazel. There's a practitioner that shared that he has trouble working with Azazel. And I shared with him, I said, hey, I have no problem. This isn't a game. This isn't who's better, who's able to work with this spirit and that spirit. I just find that Azazel, for me, is a good fit. And he's accepted me into his realm, into his teachings.
Don't you want to play? Come closer. I've got a secret.
I also would like to share about grimoires and books and all the videos that are posted all over YouTube on the occult and people's opinions and understand, I am only speaking for myself. I only represent myself. I don't represent anybody else. Do some research, read a little bit, find out maybe what you could be getting into. But when you're talking to somebody and they're sharing their experiences, and I shared this before, that's their experiences. It is not the law. And when you read a grimoire and then you go to another grimoire and then you have a collection and a bigger collection, and then you go into ritual and you got all this fucking knowledge. I'm going to tell you something. When it's all said and done, and you're in ritual and you have your third eye open or you're meditating, everything you read just goes out the fucking door. It really does. The build up is awesome. When you're in there and you're having contact with a spirit, call it a spirit. Everything is a spirit. When you're having contact with the spirit, I don't give a fuck what you have read. Because what he tells you is what he tells you. I do have a couple of grimoires, but this area right here, this is my book. This is really where I learn. This is where I get my information.
Spooky stuff, guys. There is Headhunters are back.
And as much as I love to read, there's a lot of things I do take as a grain of salt. If you are overloaded with information, you're unteachable. You need to go in there with a clean slate. Yeah, meditate. Getting to that divine area with the spirit is a process. But when you're there, when you're talking, having a conversation with Ammonius, doesn't matter what you have read, he'll tell you. Stay teachable. Clean slate when you go in there. Yeah, have some knowledge on rituals. There's a lot of books on rituals. When I read rituals, I will take a little bit. If something stands out, it's like, thank you. And I'll take that out. And I'll add my own stuff to it and mix it up to work with me, to work for me. I believe in no rules. Yes, there's guidelines, but really when it gets into it, legitimately no rules. When a spirit comes over you, in you, or around you, listen. Take them in. If you're out of it, you remember something, write it down. Oh my. I don't consider myself a teacher. I'm just a man. I'm a vessel. I'm blessed that I can have contact with these spirits. I'm blessed that I can help people through these spirits. I don't consider myself powerful. I personally have no power. Yes, I have power over myself. But if I had power, then I wouldn't need to contact these spirits. So if there's anything in this video I want you guys to take from is, please understand when I say have a clean slate, because when you go into ritual knowing nothing, then you're teachable. Don't go in there thinking you know everything. Because the truth is, 100% you do not. Protect your kingdom, friends. Hail. Right off the bat, I want to thank everybody that has subscribed to my page. It has hit over 3,000. Thank you. It's a milestone. I wanted to do something special. So let me kind of explain what this video is about. I was talking to my friend Josh from Black Dragon Paranormal. I will link his page below. It's a Facebook page. Give it a like. I love the page. Josh is a solid guy. We'll do that for him. Anyways, I was sharing that I wasn't getting any orbs on my videos. Now, I use 4K cameras. I use high-resolution cameras. And he recommended using my phone. I never thought about that, but to me that makes sense because I love Ghost Adventures and all those shows. They're always using low-res cameras. So I thought to myself, let's do it. I was really excited. Set up the phone, and lit the incense, called the spirit, manifest in front of this altar. Show your power. Now I could see manifestations happening in the smoke, but to me it didn't look like I was seeing any orbs. I checked out the footage afterwards, and I was legitimately bummed out. So I thought, well, maybe I won't light incense and I'll just film it again. Got nothing. So I was kind of like, oh, fuck this, right? A few days later, I did a ritual for myself with Azazel. Love working with them. After the ritual was done, maybe a half an hour later, it was like, well, this place was charged. You can feel it. The vibrations were awesome. I thought, let's do it. I set up the camera, the phone camera, and I got some shit. Now, something that was pretty cool was I got this red orb. I noticed it a couple times, and I punched it up. Red orbs, I don't know nothing about red orbs. And I found some information stating that it could be a protector, which kind of made sense because I asked Azazel to show, plus some other spirits. I want to tell you this footage is kind of shitty because it is on my phone. So I understand that. I rendered it in 4K. But yeah, it's kind of, and the tripod I was using, where the fuck is it? I had this thing on my tripod and it kind of moves. So when I was at the starting, it's going to shake, but it does get better on the camera. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Tell me what you think. Tell me if you think they're orbs. Tell me, I have to point this out. The incense was going crazy. Oh man, I was seeing so much shit in the incense. And the footage is only maybe 10 minutes. Because when I set it all up, I was looking in the phone and I seen a couple things, a couple orbs. And I was like, fuck yeah. Oh my God, this is working. Yeah. And then I stepped back and I decided to just kind of go into a meditation state. But it was really hard for me because I kept thinking about the orbs that were showing up or the ones that I seen. So the footage is only maybe 10 minutes because I really wanted to fucking see the footage. I was excited to see it, just maybe as much as you are to see it right now. So yeah, it's only about 10 minutes, but hope you guys enjoy it. Rock on. Protect your kingdom. Love you guys. Okay. So I have my blood pack right there. And I just make an offering. Actually, my favorite drink is coffee, so that's what I'm putting in there. I'm using Dragon's Blood. It's my favorite incense. And what I did was I have my phone set up on this tripod here, as you can see. So I'm going to shut out the lights and get this started. Caesar, show yourself. Show yourself. Show your power. Manifest. In spirits, you're welcome. Show yourself. Show yourself in this world.
don't you get out there? Come on. Come on. Come on, sweetie. How'd you get out of the room? How'd you get out here? Hi, honey. That's the best trick ever. I don't even know how my dog got over that other room. She was right there. My wife. And magically she appears out here. That's freaky. Ooh. I can't even pull that trick. That's why I said something's in the room, guys. Totally. Because I knew she was in the other room with my wife, and then all of a sudden I hear noises back there, and then poof, there she is. That freaked me out. Totally, that freaked me out. It's the best trick ever. It's ever happened to me. Jumping skies. She wasn't out here when I was making a coffee. So my wife took her in the other room with her. Some poof, she magically appeared over here. I didn't even hear the door never opened. I never heard the door open, nothing. The door didn't open. She didn't open it. Usually I hear the door open and shut. That's why I said they were here in the dark, but they're playing influence of them right now. Show you point the direction what goes on back here, guys. Just on the opposite side of the on the opposite side of Princess Pete over there. And definitely. This is crazy. Crazy stuff, guys. Truly crazy. guys, whenever you guys hear it and see on my YouTube channel, guys, feel free to watch, feel free to like. Yes, feel free to share, but please do not copy anything that goes on in this video. Meaning, when you make your YouTube videos, don't copy what you see, what you hear in your live streams. This shit is real, guys. Totally real. The legend of Haunted Hunter's Cabin, guys, is coming to life. Holy crap. Oh, Hollywood production can use this stuff. I'm not addressing that to them. Just everyday people. But yeah, guys, this is frightening stuff. Hunter's Cabin is coming alive. Thank you. The two headless headhunters. Once a witch, he's haunting as wild as ever. Oh my goodness. Isn't he wild? Aren't they wild? I'm shocked. They've gotten stronger over the years. Apparitions have. Of Hunter's Cabin.
Thank you. I see.
There's that feeling again. Definitely there's that feeling. Anymore. We won't get into more heavy detail, guys. We're gonna wait till probably Tuesday or Wednesday. Right. Definitely. He's now into the haunted house, haunted Halloween, haunted house, guys. Feel free to watch and follow only if you can handle this, guys. Can't handle this, I would suggest you don't follow and watch. This is Haunted Hunter's Cabin, guys. This is Halloween. What Halloween originally looks like and sounds like. It's not always just about candy. It's nice though, but it's got a lot of dark secrets, guys, on top of all that. Whew. Oh, the jumpins'. Right on, that's the one I was looking at. Sorry about the ads, guys. I gotta get the narrator fixed.
magic circle round. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Dance the magic circle round. We will
That's why I said, guys, no, I touched him up.
we will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. Spirit fire, come to us. We will kindle the fire. We will kindle the fire. Dance the magic circle round. We will kindle the fire.
Oh, moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter. Full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Diana, silver daughter, full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh, Aradia, Diana, silver daughter, full moon shining bright, midnight on the water. Oh,
Really a beer commercial?
see the moon tonight smiling down on me as I cast my circle of infinity. When the moon shines bright, God is calls to me, and I dance in the circle of her love. And I dance in the circle of her love. As the maiden she tiptoes, shy with her light. She is modest and pure as she graces the night. With all vultures blue since the mother smiles. Her light, all the radiance and shines and beguiles. Shouting loud, the crown slowly wanes. She ferries off souls as the darkness gains. As I dance in the circle, I offer my love for a maid in the light of the lady above. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flow into the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flow into the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flow into the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flow into the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain, flow into the ocean. We all come from the goddess, we all come from the goddess, we all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain flow into the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain. Flow into the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain. Flow into the ocean. We all come from the goddess, and to her we shall return like a drop of rain. Float into the ocean. If all of my customers paid with Interact Debit, we'd save thousands of dollars in credit card fees each year. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my spirit. Earth, my body, water, my blood, air, my breath, and fire, my
Spooky stuff, guys.
About 40 years back, I became interested in tracing my family's ancestors. This is how I discovered the Tilly Bend settlement. Situated in the Appalachian Mountains, it really is a beautiful place. The Toccoa River flows down from the high mountains, winding its way into the Blue Ridge Lake. Tilly Bend settlement is nestled back in these same mountains. One must cross the Toccoa River and travel down a one-lane dirt road that takes you deep into the forest. As you drive along, one begins to notice, windows rolled down, how quiet the deep woods become. This was my first impression of this area 40 years ago. This place has been lost in time because it looks like the same now as then, with the exception of the renovation of Tilly Bend Church. I've been here many times over the last 40 years. I suppose you could say I'm drawn to the mystery of this place. I will only share a small portion of my research. However, you need to understand this. Tilly Bend Church sits right in the middle of this haunting. This church is not part of the haunting. This church is the house of God, and services are held here on a regular basis and demands the respect as being the house of God.
I don't know how they got in
In 1756, the Creek Indians lived in this area and got along quite well with this white folk that came to this area from North Carolina. There are census records showing that the white man intermarried with the Creek women. The Cherokee did not get along with the Creeks and forced them out of the area. The intermarried Creeks did not leave, and neither did their customs. In 1820, the Stanleys had formed a settlement over the mountain in a place known then as Stanley Gap. This being told, I can now share with you what I know is fact. Searching for my great-great-grandmother's grave,
guys.
I ended up in Tilly Road Cemetery.
9 o'clock.
At this time, the church only had services on decoration once a year. The church building was very old, but still in fair condition for its age. There were no glass windows, only wooden shutters, and that was common in the days before air conditioning. The doors to this church is what I remember most about this old country church. There was in both of the old doors what appeared to be like someone had shot the doors with a rifle of some sort. My first impression was that someone had done this out of pure meanness. I then proceeded to walk around the side of the church and walked up and peered through one of the cracks between the shutters. Of course, with the shutters closed and there being no windows, the inside was dark. I could, however, make out the old homemade church pews and the pulpit. I also noticed a high ceiling with the rafters showing. Yes, I thought this church is old, and the welcome sign out in front of the church stated the church was established in 1858. After I looked the old church over, I then headed up the hill to the cemetery. I noticed there were a lot of field stones marking the graves, which is not unusual for very old graveyards. Right in the center is a very old and large oak tree, the only tree that is in the graveyard. I started looking around at the grave markers for my great-great-grandmother's grave. Well, to my surprise, her grave was also in the center of the graveyard, and her grave was the only one under the oak tree. The name on her marker is Elizabeth, so I'm looking around at this graveyard, thinking it looked as if no one wanted to be buried anywhere near her grave. I then wrote the information for her marker down, and that is when I noticed the head of her grave was facing west, which is very odd, because all the people here bury the dead facing to the east, because the Lord will return in the eastern sky. I finished getting the information, and I caught a glimpse of someone out of the corner of my eye. I did not hear a car come down the dirt road, and there were no houses close by. I turned very quick to see who it was, and there was no one. I laughed at myself thinking, yeah, I'm jumping at my own shadow. You see, I don't believe in ghosts, but I did believe in mean people. As I started back down the hill, I noticed another grave. It was called Mary. The birth date was the same as Elizabeth. They both died on October 26th. Elizabeth died 1905. Mary died 1906. I thought, boy, somebody messed up on the dates. I reached my car at the foot of the hill, and as I got in, I looked back up towards the cemetery, and at the tree, I saw what appeared to be a woman. Her dress was long and black. She had on a hat that I can only describe as a granny bonnet. I thought, you have got to be kidding. Then it looked as if she stepped back behind the tree. I was curious, so I went about halfway back up the hill and shouted hello. Of course, no answer, so I walked all the way back to the tree, and there was no one there. I hurried back to the car and left. A couple weeks later, my grandfather asked me if I had went to his great-grandmother's grave. I told him I had, and asked why her grave was facing to the west. My grandfather said, well, she was a witch. I laughed, and I said, really, Grandpa? Why is her grave turned around? He went on to tell me this. She was Creek, and also a witch doctor for the Creek Indians. The whole settlement was afraid of her. Now she had a daughter to marry, a Tilly, and another daughter to marry, a Stanley. There had been a family feud between the Tillys and the Stanleys, so the two sisters became enemies because of their husband. The feud escalated, and on Sunday morning, the Stanleys went to Tilly Church and started shooting through the doors of the church, killing the preacher, he was a Tilly, and several others in the church, including the one sister who married a Tilly. Now, the Tillys didn't let this go, and one night, they went to Stanley Gap and killed some of the men while they were asleep. Now the sister that married a Stanley, her husband was killed that night. A few months later, she died having a baby. Elizabeth Bradley vowed revenge on both the Tillys and the Stanleys for the death of her two daughters. After that, every baby born to the Tillys and Stanleys died at birth. I said, come to think of it, there was a lot of little baby graves, rows of them. My grandpa said, well, after a year of this, the Tillys went to Elizabeth Bradley's house and got her. She was then taken to the center of Tilly graveyard and hung from the old tree. They cut her down and buried her right where she fell. Right before they hung her, she told them she would come back. Now, after a few months, the little baby started dying, all at birth. People in the Tilly settlement started claiming the witch had come back and had taken up residence in a very old and mean woman, Elizabeth Bradley's sister-in-law, Mary. So on the anniversary of Elizabeth Bradley's hanging, the men went and got Mary Tilly Bradley. They hung her from the same tree. They would not bury her facing west because she was, after all, not at fault because the witch came back through her and she was a Tilly. I said, Grandpa, that didn't really happen. He said, you saw the graves, and I'm telling you it did happen, and the older folks here will tell you that it's true. He said, and I'll tell you something else that's true. I saw one of them witches one time when I was a small boy. My grandpa went on to say that when he was about 9 years old, he went to decoration at Tilly, and he described the same very woman that I had seen. This happened 40 years ago, and my grandpa has been long gone for many years now. I've seen a tintype, old picture of Elizabeth Bradley, and I've also seen Elizabeth Bradley at Tilly Bend. I've kept a record, and I've seen her 8 times in the last 40 years. There has been 2 occasions that I heard a little baby crying as I walk up the hill. Of course, it quits when I get to the tree. Strange how one would think you could only see a ghost at night. I've only seen her in the daytime. Of course, I don't go there at night, and I never will. I've always believed in paranormal things. I've had many encounters with ghosts, and it's never really bothered me. My daughter was born in 2006. Around the time she was 1.5, we moved into a nice older house. The first night in our new house, we were camping out downstairs because our beds hadn't been unloaded from the trunk yet. Around 2 a.m., I was woke up because you could hear the sounds of someone walking around in a room above the kitchen. I just blew it off as an older building and such. I walked upstairs when I continued to find her closet doors open and things scattered around her room like someone had been in the boxes. Again, I just blew it off as my kid brother playing a trick before he left. The next morning we were setting up her room, and I noticed her sitting there, acting like she was playing with someone. It sort of gave me chills, because she was actually talking to someone. I just ignored it. But later, she started mentioning the man. 3 days into living there is when things started happening. Her room has never been warm. I can turn the heater up to 75 degrees. I've bought a space heater. The landlords have came and checked the windows and insulation. Everything's normal. Her closet doors open at random times by themselves. Now at almost 3, she still talks about the man in her room. She's informed me that the man tells her she can do things, be bad, and do things after she's told no. She still sits around and talks to no one. We lived 14 months, with just little things happening all around 2 a.m. Her bedroom door slams shut, and you hear stomping down the stairs. The laundry room doors open and slam shut. The water in the bathtub turns on by itself. But lately, things have become more aggressive and frequent. I decided to decorate her room. I put new curtains up, her new blankets on her bed, and hung clothes in the closet. I walked downstairs, leaving all the lights on, but shutting the closet doors. I was downstairs maybe 5 minutes. As I entered the hallway, I noticed her door closed. Nothing new, but I opened it, and there was this rush of cold air. Again, nothing new. The light was off, and you could feel someone in the room. It was an angry sort of feeling, like someone was glaring at me. I ignored it and turned the light on. The curtains I just hung had been ripped off the rod and lay in the middle of her room. Her new blankets and sheets were off her bed, and her closet doors again wide open. My daughter refused to sleep in her room now, saying the man scares her, that he yells at her. I've placed crosses and went as far as to have my house blessed, and nothing. In the last 2 months, I've been woken up to someone screaming in my ear. The sound of my front door opening and slamming shut, and my bathroom shower turning on, all in the 2 a.m. hour, and on nights my daughter's at grandma's house. There are some stories that my family and friends have passed on, and I think you might find them quite interesting. I'm a great fan of your website. I've some stories that I've heard from family. Here's one that my grandpa encountered. His father had recently died in 1993, and the night of his funeral, he was awoke by something. He didn't know what it was. He was just awoken by whatever it was. He looked over, and his father was standing there, saying, "I'm okay. Please do not worry." My grandpa got a drink of water, and his father left. He went right through the door. Then, I have one from family friends. This was when friends Steve and Rita had moved into a new house. They had seen several apparitions that they have not really explained, but really just blobs. Then, here comes the scary part. Here are 2 stories that I've also inquired from the same person. Rita and her husband and 2 friends were in the family room in the middle of the day, talking, and all 4 of them saw a shadow jump from the balcony, slide across the family room, and go under the couch. Steps have also creaked, and toilets have flushed for no apparent reason. This was also a new house, with no history of violence on the property. Now for the second story. A couple of nights later, Rita was sleeping and woke up to feeling like someone was sitting on top of her, trying to choke her. Steve woke up to Rita's screams and flipped the lights on. She told him there was a man with a plaid shirt in the room, trying to choke her. No one was in the room. She got up out of bed and went to the dresser, looked in the mirror, and he was behind her. A lumberjack-looking man in a plaid shirt, standing right behind her. This also might sound kind of weird, but my mother, Bernadette, lived in a new neighborhood when she was little. Outside of the development was a field with a very small house, almost a shed. Whenever my mom took a walk with her grandma, a little girl would come running out of the house and shed and talk with them. She was always dressed old-fashioned with a dress on. She resembled a little girl like Shirley Temple. She said her name was Judy. My mom saw her several times. Her grandma also did too. Years later, when she mentioned Judy to her mother said that nobody had ever lived in that house. It was used for storage, a shed, and said my mother was making it up, and that it was a story. We have never figured out if it was a ghost or not. My great-grandmother remembered her too. As a side note, I've passed this particular field many times, and have seen the shed, but have not had any strange things happen to me when passing the area. Like my grandmother has said, no one has ever lived in that shed, so I don't know. My name is Rodney, and I would like to share a story with you that happened to me and a friend of mine. First, I'll give you some background. It's the early 70s in Enon, Ohio. My friend Mike and I were very close because both of our parents had gotten divorced around the same time. We were in our early teens. We shared similar interests in magic, in trickery, and the occult. We used to save our money and either buy magic tricks from magazines or make magic tricks from plans that we would buy for our act. We appeared on a local after-school show for kids a couple of times, and in doing so, we got to meet a local famous person named Dr. Creep. He had a Saturday night show where he would host and show scary movies, and he also did magic. Dr. Creep was really knowledgeable and had a lot of contacts. He told us of a local magic shop in Dayton and gave us directions. We couldn't drive at the time, but I would beg my older sisters to take us there. Discovering that magic store opened us up to a whole vast world of new tricks and illusions. The shop also sold paraphernalia for smoking, and it had a lot of what we now refer to as goth type of clothing and jewelry. Well, as we were getting a bit older, the movie The Exorcist came out, and we thought that what a neat idea it was to put some drama and stage production into the act to make it more of a show. We both attended a vocational school, so there were a lot of talented people there, and we found a couple of girls that liked to dance. We added dancing demon girls to the beginning of the show using black lights, dark jumpsuits to conceal the girls under the sheets. The music was Mike's Oldfield's Hearst Ridge. I think that was the title. The stage was very barren when the show started. Only a small table with dimly lit candles, and the dancing girls could be seen. The dancing girls' dance ended with them meeting in front of the table, and Big Flash exploded. And as the lights slowly illuminated, they would reveal a transformation in the whole look of the stage. There was now a 10 by 12 painted dragon silk tapestry hanging beyond the table, and 2 silk banners of Elizabeth artistically lit with eerie lighting, and I would be standing where the dancing girls had disappeared in my cape. Most of our tricks and illusions were dark in nature. My friend Mike moved to Houston a year before we graduated high school. He got a job at the Galleria Mall in the fun shop. After I graduated, I moved to Houston and stayed with Mike at his mother's house. I also got a job at the fun shop. Eventually, we pretty much ran the place, and again, we found a lot of new outlets for magic and the occult. Eventually, we moved into an apartment together as roommates. Our interest in the occult grew, but only out of curiosity, and it gave us an air of mystery to other people. As we made more friends, and our reputations as being a little different spread, we decided to really mess with people. Mike's bedroom had a huge closet and being young, it didn't have a lot to put in there. We decided to dress it up and make it look like a devil worship, after with the banners we had, and with the skull-shaped candles and the magic tricks. Our plans were when our friends would come over, we would show them that, and they would freak out. The very night we did this at about 12, I awoke to a pounding on the wall between Mike's room and my room. I sat up and yelled, "What are you doing over there?" The pounding continued unrelentingly. I got out of bed and went over to the wall and yelled, "Knock it off, I'm trying to sleep." The knocking got louder and didn't show any signs of stopping, so I went over to Mike's bedroom door and knocked and said, "Mike, stop it." The pounding continued, so I opened the door to see Mike sitting up in his bed, looking at the closet. My eyes went across the room towards the closet, and as my vision passed his dresser, I saw the door slowly closing. I asked Mike what he was doing banging on my wall. He said it wasn't coming from the wall between our rooms. It was coming from the closet. I continued looking onto the closet. As I saw the door, it was breathing and jostling, as if someone was trying to get out. Then it stopped suddenly. We were scared witless. We gathered up enough courage to both walk over, and we pulled open the door with ease. The closet was freezing. We looked around and saw no one or anything. The apartment we lived in was brand new. No one lived next door. Our neighbor downstairs was gone for the weekend. We asked the people behind us the next day why they were banging on the walls, and they said that they hadn't, and that they didn't hear anything the night before. We immediately started ripping all the decorations down. I'm still very much fascinated with the paranormal, but I will not invite it in. I have another story I will share with you later, but as for now, I hope you enjoyed what I gave you. My parents own a lake house in northern Indiana, and we used to have a neighbor named Mr. Campbell. Sadly, Mr. Campbell was quite old and depressed, and one day he left a note and enough food and water to last his dogs at least a week. He said his body could be found in the lake. I couldn't remember if it was ever found. This story has many parts, all leading to the same conclusion. Mr. Campbell's ghost haunts this property, but he seems to be quite calm and docile. The first instance, well, a rich man, Richard, bought his property, tore the home down, and built a $2.5 million house. Richard was extremely nice and was always coming over for dinner. One day, he told us that he thought his house was haunted. He had an entertainment system installed that requires him to climb a ladder to fully turn it on or off. For that reason, he always left it on and left the ladder in the garage. One day he had guests over and was going to put on the Indy 500, but the system was powered down. He said he watched TV the night before and no one had been in the house. At first he just assumed it was a power outage or something. He got the ladder and turned on the system. However, all of the settings were messed up. The volume was turned down very low, and the radio was on and set to a 50s station. The TV was off because of the radio. When he turned on the TV, it was tuned static rather than the Discovery Channel Richard had been watching the night before. He said he played it off as an accident to his guests, that it kind of spooked him. Later, after this happened, again Richard assumed Mr. Campbell wanted to listen to music, but didn't want to disturb anyone, because no one had heard the music. Richard also had a roommate named James. Thought us that they were lovers, but no one really asked. Richard would travel to Chicago a lot, and James would be home alone. One night, my sister and I were watching TV in our room and saw lights shining outside and heard men talking. We looked out our window and saw about 3 police cars and about 6 policemen walking all over the house, looking at windows and knocking on the door. We went outside with our dad to see what was going on, and the police asked if we had heard or seen anything suspicious. We said no. Why? They told us someone had called 911 from the house, but only breathed into the phone for a couple minutes and then hung up. We told the police that Richard was gone, and usually when he was gone, James would visit his mother down the street. My dad called James' cell, and he was at his mom's for a dinner and a movie. He said he was planning on leaving soon anyways, and came to talk to the police. James let him in, and they searched the whole house, but no one was there. However, in the kitchen, a burner was left on high. James said he made pasta to bring to his mom's and must have forgotten to turn off the burner. After the police left, James said he sometimes got a strange feeling in the house, like he wasn't alone when he knew he was, but that he never got scared. It was more like being watched over than stalked. My sister and her friend were sitting on our screened-in porch one Friday night after we got to the lake house late. They saw a man walk from the pier to Richard's house, and my sister called out, "Hi, Richard," or James, whoever it is. But the figure didn't stop or reply. He just walked up to the house and disappeared. The girl said a light never came on, and he never heard a door open. The next day, Richard was doing yard work, and my sister mentioned the night before and jokingly accused him of ignoring her. He told her he had not been home last night, and that he had just gotten back from Chicago early that morning. He also said that James was in North Carolina for the week for his sister's wedding. My sister and her friends were confused because they had both seen the man, and they were worried they had seen a robber. Richard asked if the outdoor lights turned on, and they said no. Why? He said he has motion detector lights, so if there was a person by the house, the floodlight should have come on, and his alarm didn't register entry last night. The next incident, Richard had to move to Chicago. It had gotten to be too much for him to constantly be driving back and forth, so he bought a flat in Chicago and put the house up for sale. James left too. The new owners were really quite annoying and full of themselves, so no one ever told him about the possible haunting or the house's past. One day Janet came over and asked us if the house had a story. I asked why. She said she had been in the shower when she saw an old man staring at her. She screamed, and he just disappeared. We told her about Mr. Campbell and everything, and she sort of freaked out. They tried to sell the house, but couldn't. She still says the old man watches her every now and then. The housekeeper says she has never seen the old man while she was showering, but that she thought she saw him one day while she was cleaning. He was in the entertainment room, listening to music. She also said that the 5 dogs will stare at all the same spot for several minutes on end, tails wagging, as if they were being talked to. We still talk to Richard, and he has told us many stories about the house, rearranged pantries, the entertainment system being changed multiple times, and other various things. We think Mr. Campbell haunts the home because he can't move on. My mom says my experience must have been Mr. Campbell trying to get away from Janet for a while. That incident was before the shower, but Janet was already in the home with her husband. We still hear the beeping every once in a while, and we all just say, "Hi, Mr. Campbell, you can visit as long as you like." The dog stopped staring and following him after about the 10th time. They'll look up just after the beeping, and just before we hear him leave. I'm a bit of a baby, so I still get creeped out when I'm alone at night, even though I know he has never done any harm. My parents are the last people I think would believe it, but with so many incidents, we think he is there living out his days watching others. Maybe he regretted saying goodbye prematurely, and because of this is what keeps him from going to the other side. I was visiting my mother and some friends in Florida, and stayed with my mother while vacationing, to cook pasta, of course. She works nights at the local hospital, so I'm there alone from 7 p.m. until 7 a.m. when she works. It was a Friday evening, and my mom had just left for work. I was hungry, so I went out to grab a bite to eat. I got back to the house around 8 and called my friend, who was supposed to come over to keep me company, but he was running a little late. So I decided to keep myself entertained as I waited. I was in my room listening to music and stuffing my face when I heard what sounded like church bells. Now, these bells would have had to be kind of loud, because I listened to my music on blast. I turned down my radio to hear the sound more clearly, all the while thinking to myself, there are no churches in the area that I know of, which made this all the more strange. As I listened, I heard the sound fade off into the distance, as if traveling away. I sat for a couple of minutes and turned my music back up and continued eating. About 15 minutes later, I heard something like someone trying to get in through the back door. My mom's house is a little older. I'd say about 40 to 50 years old. For someone to pry open the back door would not be a difficult task. So naturally, I ran to the back door to see what was going on. Once there, I saw that no one was there, but the glass in the door near the knob was fogged up like cold water would do in a glass cup. Thinking that was a little strange, I grabbed the handle to open the door, and I let the scream bloody murder. The handle on that door was sub-zero cold, and it really caught me by surprise, just from how incredibly cold it was. I stepped out into the porch, turned on the light, looked around a bit for anything suspicious, and when I saw nothing, I reluctantly went back inside. Concerned, I kept my music to a minimum, just in case anything else happened, as assuredly it did. About an hour later, I got a call from my friend. Now this is strange. He lives about 5 minutes from my house driving, and about 20 minutes walking. Apparently, he came over to the house and rang the doorbell, heard my music playing, and figured that when I didn't answer, I was in the bathroom or something. He called my phone, but it kept getting cut off after the first ring. So he decided to go back home and come back, since it's not far at all. He claims that as he was backing out of my driveway, he saw the front door open. He rolled down the window to see if it was me. He said as soon as he got the window all the way down, the front door violently slammed shut, so hard that my friend thought for sure that the front window should have shattered. I heard none of this. Around the time that he came over was coincidentally the same time I heard the strange bells. So I was a little spooked and told him to come over. So he said give him about 15 minutes and he would be over. Well, a lot can happen in 15 minutes. I got off the phone with him and went to the bathroom to freshen up a bit. I washed my hands and face and dried them. I was heading back to my room when I heard a faint sound in the living room. I was a little apprehensive to see what was making the sound, and started thinking that perhaps I wasn't alone in my mother's house. From my bathroom to the living room There was a long hallway. As I walked the hallway, I sensed a presence, and it felt like a large presence, however that feels. Upon entering the living room, I looked up and saw what looked like a clergyman. I could see him clear as anything. My reaction wasn't what one would expect. Looking back on the incident, it seems unusual to me as well. I began to cry, almost uncontrollably, and I still have no reason as to why. That's when I heard a knock at my door. My friend had arrived, and as I stood there, I saw the apparition seem to fade to nothing as he continued to knock and rang the doorbell. I opened the door to my friend, who seemed a little shaken himself. He asked me why I'd been crying, and unsure on what to tell him, I simply said that I saw something sad on TV. He asked if anyone else was in the house because he saw someone leave out the back door. I told him it was my neighbor. I've had many things happen to me. Dreams and visions have been a part of my life for as far back as I can remember, but none of them compared to this incident. Weird, huh? I was only about 3 years old when I first started seeing things in my old house. It started with the noises in the attic. I would hear rocking in the attic directly above my bed. However, that portion of the attic had nothing in it at all. The floor wouldn't even have supported the weight. My old house was a 1950s home. The basement still had an old coal room. However, the coal chute was sealed shut to prevent breaking in. The coal room was directly below my bedroom and was the only part of the house no one ever went into. I can only ever recall even seeing the door open once. It was an empty, depressing kind of room. In addition to the noises above, I would sometimes hear footsteps in that old room below me, or footsteps on the basement stairs. The first time I ever saw anything was, as I said, when I was around 3 years old. I woke up from my sleep in the middle of the night to see a young girl standing by my bed. She had brown hair and green eyes and wore a 19th century style green nightgown. She looked to be about 8 years old. She frightened me at first, but I didn't get malicious feelings from her, and gradually I accepted her. She appeared to me often throughout my childhood, and even now, I see her occasionally. The other ghost I saw was much scarier. I wasn't the first one to see him. My younger brother was. He was a tall man who held a knife in one hand and wore black. My brother began seeing him when he was about 5 years old. The man would appear in his closet, began to walk towards him, and then my brother in his fear would scream, and the man would disappear when my parents came running. I've never told anyone about my experiences with ghosts, for I was afraid I would be called crazy. My brother told us all about what he saw. He saw the man a total of 4 times, once in each of our bedrooms, and twice in mine. I saw the man twice, but I didn't begin seeing him until I was much older, around 9 years old. I always got a fairly bad feeling from the man, and Victoria, the name I gave the little girl, would always disappear before he appeared. I got the sense that she was scared of him for some reason. In addition to this, when my great-grandma passed away, I inherited her jewelry box. The first night I had it, I'd left it sitting open on my bedroom floor. When I went to bed, I was around 6 years old. I was lying awake in bed when suddenly the movie in my VCR fell out of the VCR and onto the floor. A few minutes later, My TV turned on. There was no one else in the room at the time. As I got up to turn it off, it turned itself off. A few nights later, I'd once again been playing with the jewelry in the jewelry box. I awoke to find my basketball bouncing itself repeatedly against my dresser, sideways. There was no one else in my room at the time, and I kept it up for over a minute. After that, I became frightened and stowed the box away in the back of my closet. To this day, I will not open it, even though I'm now 16. The scariest thing of all happened when I was 11. I awoke in the middle of the night, unable to move the lower half of my legs. Terrified, I sat up to see a strange black shadow sitting on my feet. It was blurry. That may have been partly because my glasses were sitting on my bedside table. At first I thought it was my black cat, but quickly realized that it was much too big. It was transparent. It was about half the size of a small child. But the thing itself isn't what scared me. It's the feeling that I got from it. I felt terrified, like I've never felt before in my life, as if the strange shadow was pure evil. I struggled to move my legs, and then ran into my parents' room and woke them up. It's the only time I've ever told them of my paranormal happenings. My dad came into my room and turned my light on, but of course, the thing was gone. He insisted I was dreaming.
Tina? Tina? Where's your pass? Screw your pass.
are you? I'll call your mother.
Kruger! Come on out, you sick bastard! You open this door, Kruger! What do you think I did? I didn't go in there!
I'm having these dreams. And there's this man. And he's burned.
Don't fall asleep.
Never sleep again.
You have nothing to worry about. This won't hurt one little bit.
Mini wheats, made with 100% whole grain and very high in fiber to fill you up.
Phew. I'm back. What did I miss? Did I miss anything important? I missed somebody. Who did I not miss, guys? Totally. I'll tell you guys, we've got. I'm gonna move the crystal ball out of the way for a second. Generally. And definitely hope that tape didn't get ruined. Just so you guys know, okay? Lesson learned. Okay. We don't know who these guests are. Okay. We don't know who's in these costumes. Don't assume to know. It's a hunter's cabin, haunted hunter's cabin, secrecy. Don't call them out by any name whatsoever. It's almost like addressing a person that is of the transgender community. If you were to call them out by their dead name and not by their actual transition name. Well, the same idea goes, and the same respect goes for our spooky guests, because you don't know when they come out, when they're going to come out, and they're spooky guests, they're frightening guests. Even our twin headless headhunters of Hunter's Cabin, where one is a witch, where we already know by legend what their names are, or or what their names used to be. Okay, but if a person comes out in a costume, okay, that's behind the characteristic, never ever address them by an actual authentical real name. The character itself has a name, so you address by the characteristic, the character's name or demon's name. Okay, guys? Or the witch's, or if it's a witch, the witch's name. Not because you don't know who's in these costumes, and you're not supposed to know who's in these costumes. It's been a secrecy tradition of Hunter's Cabin for decades. You're not supposed to know who it is. Even if you think you know who it is, you're not allowed to reveal and disrespect and call them out by name, by if you happen to know the person's real name. It is a code we have with Hunter's Cabin, guys. Totally. That is disrespectful. Totally. Because with these guests, you don't know who's in those. You don't know who's appearing on camera in those costumes. I tell you, it could be anybody. It could be anybody. Could just poof, twitch your nose like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, and poof, out they pop. Okay? We know, for an example, if Felicia comes out, that's your character name. Okay? If you think you know who's in the costume, don't address them by the real birth given name. It's disrespectful. Totally disrespectful. While they're in character, or in what they say in character, or dolled up, looking pretty, or in what you call spooky character, um, inside the actual cosplay character, you address them by that character's name and title and pronouns. Same with Hunter's Cabin. The same rules apply. Don't ever call them out by a birth given name. Ever. Guys, that is so disrespectful. I know my wife's got to learn that too. Especially when Hunter's Cabin has a tradition that goes back. Now, I know Freddy Krueger has nothing to do with Hunter's Cabin. He's a bit of an extra. Okay? He's a bit of a twist. Same with Jason when he starts appearing from Friday the 13th. If it's possible, do what you call added in characters. Okay? The main characters are the two twin headless headhunters, and one being Witch, and of course the original characters, Pringles Pete, myself, the Gypsy Rover, more or less, are the original legendary characters. These other horror movie characters that you see today were never ever part of Hunter's Cabin. We just kind of threw them on in there as a twist. Okay, for the haunted house to make it more exciting. Okay, but still doesn't matter. Doesn't matter if any spooky guest comes on here, guys. You're not meant to know who's under the costume or in behind the mask. Okay, that is a Hunter's Cabin. Even if Hunter's Cabin adopts that character, that is what you call a secrecy. Is to be kept. Shh. So it doesn't, because especially if we're live like this, that goes public. Okay, it is nobody knows who's in behind the mask. Nobody knows who's in the costumes. Nobody's meant to know that. Okay, that is like a magician keeping to the code of Merlin that does not ever reveal his tricks ever to the public. Now some have. They have like what you call the unmasked magician, where they've unmasked them, and people have exposed him, and they have broken the code of Merlin. But traditionally, a magician is never to break that secrecy or code of Merlin or bylaws of Merlin. It goes back to ancient times. They have to keep to that. It is just like it is like I was sharing before. I used to be an Orangeman. They have to keep to a code, to a secrecy. When they're sworn in under oath. Same with Freemasons, they're sworn in under oath. Same with Celtic Gypsy Warriors Live. We have our own oath. That which I do not share publicly ever. That kind of stuff like that. But it is kept to a sacred secrecy for a reason. So if we have like the Haunted Hunter's Cabin guys, like we've been doing the last few years, you are never meant to know who is inside those costumes, guys. That is a secrecy, totally. Because it could be anybody. It could be anybody. It could be anybody. You're not meant to know who's under there. It is a confidential act in our club's constitution, in general, or traditions. Okay, definitely. Like I said, we're a Midnight Secret Society. We're about, telling gypsy tales, ghost legends that once were true, but nowadays, bringing campfire legends to life. Totally. Even your favorite horror movies to life. Totally. Kind of I thought I add that in because I'm a Nightmare on Elm Street fan or whatever. That kind of stuff like that. So, like I said, guys, please do keep to our secrecy oath. If there is a Celtic Gypsy Warrior present on live stream, that kind of stuff, because you're not meant to know who's inside the costumes ever. It's been a secrecy. Even goes back, even when we have our actual authentic Wiccan Celtic Gypsy witches robes on, you're not supposed to know who's actually inside under that hoodie. It's a sacred tradition. That's why I said we're a secret society. Have been since I was 10 years of age, 9 years of age. Traditions that are never to be revealed or to be broken. Definitely, that's why I said we've. This is why we're picky on what kind of people we associate ourselves with. Totally, that we allow in our circle. Indefinitely, because if they're gonna break secrecy traditions, we don't want nothing to do with them. We will not have anything or any association with them. And definitely we'll cut them off. Totally. We won't have anything to do with them. That does not respect our pronouns, does not respect our secrecy of our secret society or our traditions. Definitely. Or breaks the secrecy on who's inside the costumes and that kind of stuff like that. This is just a lesson we learned. Totally. You probably haven't heard my wife in the background, but just so, guys, this is just what you call just a lesson. It's like anything. Like if you were to join the actual Illuminati, or you joined the Freemasons, you're not allowed to reveal any of their secrecy traditions. That kind of stuff that's been sacred for so many years. There's some things in there that you go through. Can't tell you what they are, but there is things that you experience, that kind of stuff. Like to certain levels, you have to go through. They have a specific name and pronoun for them, but you can't go into any detail what goes on in them or what goes on in their meetings. That kind of stuff like that. Again, it is a secret society, just like Celtic Gypsy Warriors is, like what we are. And I have been since 10 years of age. Now, Celtic Gypsy Warriors, guys, is not a Freemason organization. It is just a Midnight Secret Society. We have not earned that title yet, or not gone that high up. But we were almost as 9-year-old kids. We were close. We were close to those standards. But we have, like I said, we still have our own traditions and standards that we keep to, totally. And Hunter's Cabin itself is a big part of us because it's one of our main, one of our main mascots, if you want to call it. Out of all the banded places ever in the world or whatever, and its history. Okay, it is part of the Celtic Gypsy. It is part of the Celtic Gypsy Warriors. Definitely, it is what we call. Some groups have actual mascots that people can dress up in costumes, but a cabin or a building, we can't dress anybody up as. But in a way, it is our landmarking. It is our base camp that we call it. We declare it as. It is our dark secrecy to our order. Definitely itself. So it is based on dark traditions. Dark ghost legends around now, digital fireplaces like you see back here, guys. Or electric, or sometimes out, or some of us, or sometimes if we get the opportunity to go out to the woods or whatever, you know, or if we ever get, you know, or we group up or whatever, like we used to when we were kids, when we were at camp or whatever, at a kids camp, or you know, we were out in the woods and we were around a campfire, you know, that kind of stuff like that. We, you know, we'd go about our uh, midnight society after midnight, after darkness, into the midnight hours, under what they call even if we didn't care if it was a full moon. Um, you know, to become a Celtic Gypsy warrior, we had our ways of initiating you in and that kind of stuff like that. Now, when we were kids, when we became Celtic Gypsy warriors, now we don't have, you know, we don't have a president, vice president, secretary, you know, a board of directors, shit like that. Okay, we're just basically we have our own. We run our own little secret society, and we have since we were kids. Now, some of us might have split up and went our own ways, and we went independent. You know, like I said, we've earned different levels of bandanas or whatever. We have our Celtic Gypsy Angels, but they're not Celtic Gypsy Warriors. They are now we recognize them as being Celtic Gypsy Warriors, but they're the lowest level of Celtic Gypsy Warriors ever because of the rainbow-colored bandanas. And they're declared as Celtic Gypsy Warriors Angels. We are the actual with the dark bandanas, like I have, like the black and the gold crown and the red. We are technically, is my crown upside down? Yes, it is. We are basically what we call the Dark Knights of the Order. Gypsy Knights of the Order. So, like I said, we're the highest. We're the highest of the high ornaments of the Celtic Gypsy Warriors. Definitely, totally. No wonder. Yes, it was. So anyway, I was wondering why my safety pin was feeling kind of crooked. So there we go, I'll fix that. So I had my crown upside down. Sorry guys about that. Just wanted to share that, guys, with you too as well, because I wanted to try to give my wife a bit of a scare. But I'll tell you. But at any point in time, guys, do not call these people out in these costumes by reality. Even if you know the person in the costume, guys, don't ruin it and call them out by their name, with given name. Go by their character name, more or less, that they're representing, because you're not, to our traditions with Celtic Gypsy Warriors, you're not supposed to know who's in these costumes. It is a secrecy. It is confidential, guys. Totally confidential. It's the way our order works, and it has worked for years. Totally, even before my time. It goes back to the ancient Celtic times. Just like for an example, like if you look at movies being made or whatever, there, even the actors that originally are the characters, their names are not really traditionally probably in the credits, but their names are considered what you call security protection, being under security protection, more or less, or declared as being a dead name while they transition to that character itself. So like I said, guys, just keep that in mind, so you guys understand how Celtic Gypsy Warriors works. So there's just some examples there for you guys. Totally. You'll hear voices, it'll spook you, that kind of stuff like that as well. Um, tight, man. I'm tired. Totally. And I had a nap too. Man, I had a nap too as well. We could continue. What time is it? Oh man, it's 10:17. I think it's probably gonna try to continue on a little longer. No, I don't. I don't know. Well, we had a pretty good show here for you guys in a minute. And definitely. I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think Felicia's going to be popping in tomorrow. Definitely. She's a very hard one to round up. I'll tell you. Within 5 seconds of being live, definitely she's a hard person to go searching for, totally. So I think we're gonna have her start off the show tomorrow night. Definitely, kind of makes things go up quite easier. That kind of stuff like that. So guys, for the first half, guys. Pringles Pete, he's a ghost. He's around somewhere. Sometimes you'll hear him talk or whatever. In the first set of the Haunted Cabin back in 2016 and 17, you've seen what he looked like. Definitely before he became a ghost in Hunter's Cabin. Before he went nighty night on Elmacre Square. Spilt his Pringles. Definitely. I've got those all on my YouTube channels as well, so feel free to watch those as well. Going back to how I started the haunted house replicacy and that kind of stuff like that. So very awesome stuff, guys. Totally. So yes, Felicia is gonna start off tomorrow, guys. Don't be rude, please. Pringles Pete is rude enough to her. Definitely, guys. If you guys are even following in, if you guys started to put comments down or whatever, and nobody's commented all it so far. But if you guys are popping in, you guys are going to leave comments or whatever. Please do not be rude to Felicia. I tell you, because I gotta hear the complaints. Totally, definitely. I tell you, she is so easily offended. Definitely, I almost said vegan. She's not vegan. Neither am I. Neither is anybody in this cabin, to tell you the truth. Definitely. But again, guys, like I said, guys, Felicia is going to be around tomorrow. So, guys, please show respect to Felicia. Definitely, guys. Like I said, she's like Pringles Peach, pops in. She's like our Freddy character here. He pops in, he comes in, he goes. He gives you guys, a bit of a spook timing in the hour. We have our legend hours, that kind of stuff like that, guys. So again, guys, the King of Nightmares, he pops in and pops out. I used to have a gold crown. I have to get another one. And that kind of stuff like that, but the dollar store hasn't been selling them, so I might get another one eventually for future wise. We got more spooky people on that are going to be made up indefinitely, guys. Again, because there's a main event night coming up too. Again, the 27th, guys. We're going to be airing later on YouTube Live indefinitely. Here in Haunted House Cabin. I tell you, we've had the two Headless Headhunters pop in twice this weekend. And definitely, one is a witch. So again, definitely show you respect if you hear them pop in. I tell you, when they're gonna pop in, I tell you, they spook us. They shock me because their haunting skill and technique is getting more frightening than ever. They're getting a lot stronger than what I'm used to, anyways. When I first close encounter them, oh yeah, they frightened me bad enough, but I hope they're not going back to the old ways, going back to like the way they started, the way the apparitions first came back in 1814. The legend actually happened in 1813, and they built the cabin in 1812. So, like I said, it is quite interesting. Of course, legend, totally. Now, like I said, guys, we have our legend hours too. Again, like where we share other urban ghost legends and that kind of stuff, like live on here for you guys. With it being Haunted Hunter's Cabin, with it being around Halloween time, this is what Celtic Gypsy Warriors Live is like, is telling ghost legends, urban ghost legends, mythical, paranormal, supernatural ghost legends of all kinds. Also, too, if you guys want to send in some ghost legends, feel free to, but please make sure that there is proper pronunciation in them. Make sure that there is nothing crude or rude, nothing pornographic, please. Definitely. So that way it's actually okay to be shared on here. That kind of stuff like that. There is restrictions when you're writing ghost legends, guys. Totally, there is. Okay, there's limitations. So, like I said, guys, just be advised on that one. Totally. Especially with Halloween, everybody can go haywire. Totally. Go a little overboard. Totally go a little bit overboard. So that's why I said, guys, we're gonna guess. Like I said, guys, Felicia is going to be starting off our night tomorrow night for Haunted Hunter's Cabin. Again, show her respect. Don't be twats. Definitely. Don't be pricks. Keep your opinions to yourself. No rude, no inappropriate sexual comments, please, because she does look pretty. Yes, she is a very pretty looking lady, pretty good looking girl. But yeah, she is a princess. So guys, do show respect. It is the number one key. Okay? Because Felicia tells me everything. If she has to buy you guys on here, okay? If she has to buy Felicia you, that ain't good. You ticked her off, or you offended her. So show respect, please. Don't be by Felicia clowns and thinking you kind of test her personality, and then she buys Felicia. You're off the page, you're out of the live stream. Definitely. She'll do that too. She'll do that. She don't have a care in the world. I tell you, that's Felicia for you. What else is not new? She's so good of it. That's why they call her Felicia. Okay, that's why she is named Felicia. Okay, so when Felicia starts off the shows tomorrow night, guys, be nice, be polite. She don't put up with any hanky panky. I'll tell you. Because she'll buy Felicia and send you away with a little spanky. Just kidding, guys. Totally kidding. Indefinitely. So, guys, Haunted Hunter's Cabin, guys. Totally. Hope you guys are enjoying tonight, guys. And definitely. I don't know if we've already had our witches pop in through here. I don't know. I got to make up some more spooky people, I'll tell you, for back here. I think I was gonna do it this weekend. I gotta get cracking this weekend doing it, getting them ready. Anyways, so that way after the 20th, night of the 27th, guys, they'll be ready to be put out after the main event. So I don't know if it's the 27th or the 25th. If it's the 25th, then yes, I'm gonna be late going live. Or if it's the 27th, both ways, guys, I'm gonna be late going live, definitely. Here on YouTube and that kind of stuff like that. And yes, I got guys, just like you guys know, I finally got TikTok working again, guys, so I can do my videos totally. So I hope you guys are enjoying the spooky atmosphere of Haunted Hunter's Cabin. I guess we got a laundry list going on here now. Totally, that's crazy. Just give you guys a bit of a closeout here, guys, for tonight.
Prime Day is October 13th and 14th. Save big on everything you need and love.
Okay, what are integrated payments? It's when you can accept customer payments
Sorry about
directly
the
in your
narrator
accounting or
ads, guys.
invoicing system.
You're with your baby, and you're parked alone on the summer night. You're deep in love, but you're deeper in the woods. You think you're doing alright. Did you hear that voice? Did you see that face? Or was it just a dream? This can't be real, that only happens to me. On the movie screen.
Nobody's back. The man behind the mask. He's out in control. Man behind the mask.
You're sitting with your girl out in Lover's Lane, and you're blows cold. She's your voice, but you stay like me. That's a bad mistake. But the moon was full, and you had a chance to be all alone. But you're not alone, this is your last dance, and your last romance.
Yes, he's back. The man behind the mask. He's out of control. Back. Man behind the mask. Out of his own shit. Nobody can come and do the right as we can. Look around and run as fast as we can. Sorry I messed up, guys. Little karaoke. He's out tonight. He's watching you. He's close to house. Place. Behind the mask, he's out of control. Back and behind the mask, he's out of control. Back and behind the mask, he's out of control. Back and behind the mask. We're gonna do that one more time, guys. I'm a terrible singer without the karaoke crowds.
You're with your baby, and you're parked alone on a summer night. You're deep in love, but you're deeper in the woods. You think you're doing alright. Did you hear that voice? Did you see that face? Or was it just a dream? This can't be real, that only happens, babe. Only this you. Oh, but he's back. He's the man behind the mask, and he's out of control. He's back. The man behind the mask, and he crawled out of his hole. You're swimming with your girl out on Lover's Lake, and the wind blows cold. It chills your bones, but you're still on the lake. That's a bad mistake. Oh, but the moon was full, and you had a chance to be all alone. But you're not alone. This is your last dance, and your last romance. Yeah, 'cause he's back. He's the man behind the mask, and he's out of control. He's back. The man, the mask, and he crawled out of his hole. Oh, we can see him come and get away.
This is Square Terminal. It's powerful and portable, with no hidden fees and no long-term contracts. This is a terminal with nothing to hide. Square Terminal. It's a whole new take on taking payments.
Born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am born of water, cleansing, powerful, healing, changing. I am.
Hey guys, guess what?
See you next time. If you did, and don't use your hands on the square. Night night.